There's really no event like this, really anywhere in the world that I'm aware of, that has this mix of complete professional and complete amateur efforts.
I think the challenge of this event is that it's open to any type of race car based upon speed and really any driver level.
Got great drivers, great car, we're going for the win.
58 racing teams, a 3-mile track in Northern California, 25 hours of endurance racing. A year's worth of planning and preparation comes down to this moment.
Doing a race for 25 hours is a different mentality. It's really about understanding the shelf life of each component of the car and knowing the more power that you put to the ground, the harder it works every component of the car. So you really need to save the car, and a team needs to work together, not just to get their best lap time ever, but to get the car to the finish in one piece in order to win.
It's the driving aspect of it, it's the preparation, it's dealing with the weather, it's just all of that lumped into one. This is one massive challenge that you can't turn away from.
It's run so much in the dark versus a lot of the other 24-hour races are done during the summertime. So they have better weather conditions typically, and they run more during the daylight than at nighttime, whereas this race is predominantly in the dark.
I don't think there's going to be much sleep to be had around here in the next day or so.
It's a huge challenge just to finish this race.
If it wasn't a challenge and adversity, it really wouldn't be fun, so that's what keeps us coming back.
Racers are really resilient. That's, what you teach your kids, right? Never give up, and this is why.
The longest endurance race in the country. This is Survive the 25. Nestled in the far end of Northern California lies the small town of Willows, California, home to the modest 3-mile racetrack known as Thunderhill Raceway. For the past 13 years, this track has been home to the longest and most grueling endurance race, the NASA 25 Hours of Thunderhill, presented by Hawk Performance. A National Auto Sport Association event, this racing spectacle is unique in that it pits professional teams and drivers head-to-head with amateurs. Accordingly, a wide range of car models compete here side by side, meaning the top speeds and horsepower vary greatly, which always adds to the unpredictability of this event. And while the cars all run simultaneously, for competition's sake, they are segmented into 6 categories based on their specs. The ES and ESR classes were created for the fastest and most exotic cars, while progressively slower cars are ranked in classes E0 through E3. Of the 58 race teams that showed up to compete at this year's race, some newcomers, some veterans, few have more to prove here than Los Angeles-based Rhino Racing. After a crash abruptly ended their racing efforts here last year, this weekend has been circled on their calendar for the past 12 months.
This race can be humbling, and you can roll out here with the fastest car, and that means very little. Last year my son crashed the car at hour 4.5. Just a simple mistake that you would make anywhere and survive it without an issue. Just happened to be the right spot at the right time, and he had to pay for it on that one.
Yeah, last year was a bummer. It came around the last turn, and got a little sideways on the exit curbing, and went directly into the wall, and ended our chances for the overall win. Redemption is it's on the list.
Another unique characteristic about Rhino is that theirs is a father and son effort.
We're pretty much here having a good time with our children. I say that. It happens to be that I'm racing with my son Ryan. We also have Brian Herda and his son Colton are racing with us. And then we also have a good friend, Eric Chase, and his son Parker Chase is also driving with us. So we have kind of 3 father-son teams, and 2 of us are on the list to drive.
In 2015, the Sonoma, California-based Flying Lizard Motorsports team piloted an Audi R8 in one of the first nearly flawless runs ever seen here that saw them capture the overall win with relative ease. The team returns to Thunderhill this year, ready to defend their title and try to repeat that same success.
This year, I expect it to be a little tougher. There's not going to be the weather condition of the rain. And the prototypes, they've really kind of stepped it up. There's some more cars here in the prototype category and faster cars. So, you know, in reality, we're not racing them. We're a different class in the prototypes. But for us to win it overall and beat everybody last year was a pretty big accomplishment. So, I mean, if we could do that again, that would be phenomenal.
Integral to their success here has been their collaboration with development partner Toyo Tires.
Last year was excellent. You know, if you come into an event like this and you have a notion in your head of how you'd like something to work out, and to have no mechanical issues, to have no tire issues, to really just have a flawless race for 25 hours, no matter what conditions presented themselves, was, we couldn't have scripted it any better. And to take an overall win at the end of it was more than what we could have expected, and it was just a perfect race. You know, you'd always like to go into something and have the same expectation, is it'd be great to come back and just, you know, completely win this race in a fairly dominating fashion again. But it's racing. Anything can happen. We knew that last year going into it, and I would say if there's a Lady Luck out there, we probably had her on our side last year. She's hopefully here this year. But you just prepare for the worst. That's all you can do, is be as prepared as we can for everything that we could possibly throw at us.
A year ago, CLP ran an Elon NP01 here that finished first in their class despite having a few technical difficulties. This year, the Bay Area team returns with their eyes on capturing the coveted bragging rights associated with the overall first place finish.
We made that decision at Sunday, whatever that date was last year, to do this race again, and I think it's always on the calendar from now on. It's one of those kind of automatic, we're going to race this race every year, and every year we're going to keep coming with a vehicle that we think can overall win, because ultimately that's really what we want to do, is try to win the overall. And I know there's been a lot of teams that have tried for many years, and it's a very challenging race to win overall.
Global rallycross driver Tanner Faust joins the CLP team this year after having last competed here 8 years ago.
This event is so off the charts different than other motorsports I do. I mean, I do sprint races basically. Rallycross races rarely last more than about 3.5 minutes. In drift events, you know, when I do still do some drifting, each run lasts less than 40 seconds. So doing a race for 25 hours is a different mentality. It's really about saving parts of the car. It's about understanding the shelf life of each component of the car, and knowing the more power that you put to the ground, the harder it works every component of the car. So you really need to save the car, and a team needs to work together, not just to get their best lap time ever, but to get the car to the finish in one piece in order to win.
Another perennial competitor here, the Las Vegas-based One Motorsports CrowdStrike team, also has their sights set on the overall trophy.
This is probably my 5th year at Thunderhill. It's one of my favorite events of the year, and over the years it's been a lot of trials and tribulations, and looking forward to another great year. You know, what keeps us coming back is really the fact that it's such a grueling race. Just to finish is really an accomplishment in itself, and it's one of those races where it's been elusive. We haven't quite won it yet. We've come in first in our class and 3rd overall over the 5 years I've been here, but we haven't won it outright overall, and that's really what drives us. We're going to win this race one of these years.
On the Friday before the race, the teams load in and prep their cars for brief practice and qualifying sessions.
We're feeling good. We qualified first in class and 7th overall, and we're looking forward to the race and a good, clean start.
I feel great. We had a little bit of an issue before qualifying. We had an engine go out on us, but hopefully that happened before the race, so we got that out of the way. Ken did a great job. He had about 1 clean lap. We had to bed in some brakes, so I feel pretty good. And I think it's going to be a great day, great weather, and a great race.
Yesterday was pretty good. The car worked really well. Just got stuck in some traffic. It's kind of typical for qualifying for the 25-hour. We finished, we qualified 2nd in class, right behind the Flying Lizard. So that's our main competition. So we're looking pretty good for the start of the race.
Good. I mean, it's awesome for the team to get both cars on the front row. I mean, that's kind of like job one. The important job now is today, so definitely ready to go. Looking forward to it.
CLP's principal and driver Pat O'Keefe is dealing with the first unexpected obstacle of the weekend. The noise from their car, as measured by race officials, is currently too loud, making it in violation of the race regulations.
We are fighting a little bit of a sound issue right now, so we are working on quieting the car. So, you know, I mean, it's not 100% perfect at this moment, but we know we have a good car, and that's a solvable problem for us. Yeah, it's strange because we knew the car would be loud, but it's significantly louder on this decibel meter for some reason than it was at Sonoma. So we're scratching our head a little bit to figure out why is it so much different, and who knows.
Race day at the 25 Hours of Thunderhill. The end to the year-long anticipation of this race for each of the 58 teams is just moments away. Each of these teams have spent months preparing for this event. For many of them, this is the race of their season, the one they build toward all year long, and the one that means the most. As the teams make final preparations for the start of the race, the excitement in the air becomes almost palpable. Each team has put careful consideration into which cars they bring to run for this event, and who will pilot them.
Yes, so the biggest difference for us this year, we're bringing back the same Audi that we had last year, the race-winning car. Slight change to the driver lineup there, but everything remains largely unchanged for that program. The main thing is we added a second car this year. The Flying Lizard team is known for their affiliation with Porsche, many years of racing GT Porsches. So we've added a Porsche 911 RSR, and that'll be also in the Toyota livery, and 4 more drivers there. So we've just essentially doubled our effort to try to gather more data, do more tire development, and increase our chances of winning again.
So we're running a Lamborghini Gallardo Super Trofeo race car. We've got a great driver lineup, and kind of anchored by Tyler McQuarrie, who's won this race many times. We've got Tanner Faust, who's a driver of many different types of motorsports. We've got Tom Dyer, Mark Miller, both have won numerous endurance races and been racing professional race car drivers. And you have me, you know, kind of they call it the amateur of the group.
The car is a Ginetta G57. It's really a P2 car. It's a step up from us from the LMP3 we ran last year. It has a little bit of horsepower. The aerodynamics package is a little bit better. So it's really a monster for this track. We had a spare car they were planning to bring for parts. A couple days ago we made the decision of, you know, we're going to bring it, because if we didn't and there was an issue with the first car 3 hours in, we'd be kicking ourselves in the butt. So that's what we're going to do this year. The problem is that we don't have drivers for two full cars, and we also don't have tires for 2 full cars. So we're strategizing at the moment to figure out how to make that, but we all really look forward to it, and we're probably going to retire one of the cars early to kind of help us get us to a certain point, but you never know, it's racing, right?
Yeah, I think the car's going to be okay. We've got some testing on it, some upgrades, some changes, hopefully some greater reliability. We run a motorcycle engine in our car, which pushes it to the limits. This race has never been won on a motorcycle engine, so we look forward to hopefully changing that.
With each having their own unique game plan and approach for this endurance event, we're in for what should prove to be an unpredictable ride. It's not only about being fast, but also lasting until the final lap, proving the ultimate test of man and machine.
Yeah, so this really is a development test for us, just like it was last year. Luckily, we had the good result last year of the overall win, and this year, obviously, we're hoping for the same, but more importantly, it's collecting data in our development program.
We're going to run with double stints, probably. So we're going to keep the driver in for 2 fuel runs. So that's approximately 3 hours, then we'll cycle through drivers, and that gives you, you know, enough time that you're not totally fatigued, you know, by the end. It saves pit stop time for us, so we're going to do double stints.
Game plans are something you write on a piece of paper that you get ready to throw in the trash as things change. I mean, game plan. We've had lots of game plans through the entire year, and they've always changed. and we're always going to change them. And adapting here and dealing with the adversity of anything can happen, because it does. There's no one out here that's going to run this race and go from start to finish, roll this thing the entire time and come in, wipe the car off and go home. That is not going to happen. They're going to be, they have to deal with problems. And the better you deal with those problems, certainly allows you to be up at the front. It's an interesting concept.
You know, I think the overall game plan is get in, see how the race goes, let the race come to us a little bit, make sure that we can get through the early stages without incident. And, you know, obviously there's always attrition. We want to make sure that we just keep our nose clean and hopefully put ourselves in a position at the end of the race to be able to win it.
Team Rhino takes the early lead with both Ginettas taking the number 1 and 2 spots, while both Flying Lizard cars follow closely behind. CLP's Lamborghini and One Motorsports Radical are ferociously keeping up just behind the lead pack.
We've been planning for this race for a long time. You know, the Safecraft Lamborghini is on point. We've had some really good test days. The car feels really good. I feel like we're there on pace. You know, we brought in some other crew guys to help us with the race, and their background is huge. And so I feel like we've got a lot of good people surrounding us. We've got great drivers, great car. We're going for the win.
There's some pro guys in good cars, and theoretically they should be able to go out and win this thing overall, you know. But I think that's one of the things we take on as a challenge, you know, because there is a mix of drivers. It's not I don't know that every car has a full pro lineup. So if we get a non-pro in the prototypes, we can actually be quicker than that car.
The unique thing about the 25 Hours of Thunderhill is the cars. There's such a, you know, whole different amount of cars. There's a lot of cars on the track. There's everything from spec Mazda Miatas out there to, you know, prototype race cars like we have with the Ginetta, and everything in between. So there's some kind of almost like garage-built racers, and then there's some production cars. So I don't think I can come up with any other race that has this kind of a variety of cars. That's interesting, and it presents some really unique challenges on the track. I mean, the closing rates between the fastest and the slowest cars here is massive, much higher than even like a traditional endurance race.
The 25 Hours of Thunderhill is not for the faint of heart. It is expected that numerous mishaps will take place, and by lap 53, the E2 Class number 90 Acura RSX has brought out the first caution flag of the day. The safety crew have their hands full today, as several cars find themselves in need of assistance with a quick tow off track for repairs. At the 4-hour mark, more technical problems are starting to present themselves for both the Rhino and Flying Lizard crews to solve.
Well, from what I gather, I know earlier we had a little trouble with the 5 car. They had a broken drive shaft. I think some leftover damage from last night that we didn't catch, so they had to come off track and change the drive shaft. We lost about 20 laps. And then I think the 57 car, although we're in the lead right now, there's some reports of vibration that we've been chasing all weekend, or rather I should say they've been chasing all weekend. Although we're in the lead in the 57, I think we got a few challenges left there. So I guess we'll keep that 5 car out there as long as we have to. You know, hopefully one of them will make it to the end.
We had a little issue with the left front shock, so we came in for a quick replacement and replaced that, and we're back out and ready to go. Race is going good. I think we lost a position while we were in for the shock change, but we're still second in the ES class and probably 3rd overall in the race, so doing pretty good. I think we're almost to 4 hours, so 21 hours left. A whole lot can happen between now and then.
Meanwhile, in the CLP paddock, several small issues are beginning to stack up and threatening this team's chances for success.
Unfortunately, early on, ran out of fuel one time, not knowing really how many laps the car could do. That cost about 4 laps, but the Flying Lizard R8 also had some problems, so we're back on the hunt. But now we got a sound violation and getting a little bit of a warning light inside, so they're investigating the warning light. They're making yet another modification to the most modified exhaust ever to make sure we don't have a sound violation cause a penalty. We're second in class and maybe 5th or 6th overall, but you know, it's early on, and you know, the Flying Lizard guys will have things sorted out, so we're gonna need to make sure that we don't have too many behind the wall incidences like this. But on track, the car is working really well.
With daytime temperatures in the mid-50s and no rain in sight, the weather this year is uncharacteristically much more moderate than what teams have often endured in the past during this grueling event.
It's been dry, it's been sunny, a little overcast. We have had some wind, but completely different from last year when the rain was stopping, it was starting, we were constantly changing tires, trying to figure out, do we need wets, do we need intermediates, can we go to our dry tire? So this year it's been smooth sailing, I guess you could say.
6 hours into the race, teams have now built a rapport with the racetrack, but as the sun sets, racing here becomes a whole new ball game. The combination of harsh weather and very minimal track lighting is part of what makes this one of the most intimidating motorsport events in the world. More hours are spent racing in the dark than in the daylight, bringing yet another unique challenge into the mix.
The conditions here are gnarly. I mean, it's like 1 in every 2 or 3 years. It's raining, snowing sometimes. I mean, it's cold. And it's not just cold, it's an hour and a half away from a metropolitan area, and it is dark. Like, this is where you would come to go stargazing, you know? But there are no lights out on the track, and it is so dark out here, and the track has very little markings. So for someone like myself who hasn't been around this track in 8 years, it's a little bit nerve-wracking because I don't really know exactly all the little nuances of the track and the bumps that you need to have memorized in order to do a dark stint like that.
With driver Paul LaHaye behind the wheel, the One Motorsports CrowdStrike Radical suffers a devastating setback when their engine blows and they're forced to give up their position and be towed back to the pits.
Basically, the car was good. RPMs were good. It was running fine. I came over turn 9, had kind of a misfire, and before I got to turn 10, just hand grenaded. They're changing the engine. They did so yesterday in less than an hour, so I'm sure they'll get it done again today. Kenton's the next guy in the car with the fresh engine, so should be able to make some progress.
Meanwhile, CLP's Lamborghini Gallardo is forced back into the paddock with a dangerous rupture to its left rear brake line.
Going into turn 1, we're doing, I don't know how fast we're going, 150 or so. But we had a left rear brake line rupture. We think we picked up debris on the track, maybe a big rubber ball, and it pushed it over into the tire and it cut it. So we lost a lot of brake pressure, obviously, and went to the floor. There was only a limited amount of brakes, and we kind of nursed it back in, and the guys are working on it now, hopefully get back out there. But kind of a daunting thing to lose brakes going into turn 1 going that fast. But, yeah, we got lucky on this one. I believe we were 5th overall, 2nd in class, but this is at least a 20-minute fix. Yeah, that's going to hurt us quite a bit, but it's not even halfway over yet. So, you know, what goes around comes around, basically. So we can't afford another one of these issues, so we'll get it back, band-aid it back together and see how long we can make it.
The reigning champions Flying Lizard are keeping steady, and although they've doubled their workload by adding in a second car this year, they are optimistic about the outcome.
We had a practically flawless run last year with no issues other than brake changes, but adding a second car to the mix definitely complicates things and increases the opportunity for things to go wrong. But we're on a good track. We're feeling comfortable. It's still a lot of racing left to do.
With darkness falling onto the Thunderhill Raceway, it is expected that not all cars will make it through the night. A year's worth of planning can come to a sudden end at any time. However, there are some teams who make the best out of their misfortunes. As the temperature drops and crews fight to keep their energy levels up, the graveyard shift is an important stretch of this race, as it requires a tremendous amount of effort to battle fatigue and avoid mistakes in the process. These nighttime hours will be the toughest stint for these teams to endure. Racing into daybreak, the Rhino number 57 and Flying Lizard number 45 have been battling it out for the number 1 spot all night. Rhino has kept a consistent lead all throughout the race and hopes to fulfill their run at redemption this year. Flying Lizard, while keeping tight on their trail, is looking for a window of opportunity to capitalize and retain their title. Just after 5 a.m., the sun rises as drivers and crew eagerly await the frigid night temperatures to begin to improve. This is the symbolic start to the final stretch of this race, with just about 7 hours left, as the teams still battling for position begin to feel the end is in sight. After replacing their engine, the One Motorsports CrowdStrike team has slipped as low as 44th overall. But with diligent effort and skillful determination, they've regained a top 10 position, pounding out laps throughout the night.
So we had to change that out. We had some clutch issues on the new engine. Other than that, it's been pretty steady. So we got held up about an hour, unfortunately, but guys did a good job. Kenton did a fantastic job, really ran terrific lap times, and you know, we're just trying for a top 10. We were down to 44, so we worked our way up into the top 10. So at this point, keep the car on the track and at least bring it home, and hopefully we'll get a podium in our class. And this is one of those races where just the sheer pounding of the car over 25 hours is incredible. The damage that gets done, it's amazing that these cars actually still run after 25 hours. So for us, it's a huge win just to finish the race, and it's been a great time so far.
After initially planning on retiring one of their cars early, team owner Randy Carpenter's on-the-run strategizing has led them to keep both cars in the hunt.
We started off planning to just run the car a little bit, get a little more experience with it. And then as time went on, we figured out ways to get around the tire issue that we had, because we really didn't have enough tires to finish the car. So we started running on our worn tires. We started pulling them off our primary car and putting them on our secondary car, running them through the night when it's cold. We just really put a lot of strategy together, and it seemed to change hour by hour. So if you had asked me, what am I going to do at one time, and 30 minutes later, I'd give you a complete different story. So we've had somewhere around 15 or 20 plans, and all we're doing is just evolving to what the track is giving us.
The clock is winding down, and efforts to push through the last few stints of the race are at an all-time high. The white Rhino Ginetta number 57 car holds the overall lead, while the second number 5 car currently has the 3rd overall spot. Meanwhile, Flying Lizard's number 45 has moved up to the 2nd spot and is lurking not too far behind.
A win would be huge for us. We've never experienced anything like that in this type of racing. It would really be the icing on the cake. It'd really be a great way to sum up 2 years of development work for our slick tire program.
Win would probably validate all the hours that we've put into the car. Obviously, if you asked anybody that's down on pit road, they'd tell you the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of hard work and sweat goes into this preparation. But you know, it's I don't want to make it sound simple because it's very difficult. What would it mean? Especially with the other fathers, would be real special.
A win would really, I think, just be a checkbox. We've tried for 5 years now, and we've come very close. Personally, it would be very satisfying. I know for Jeff Schaefer, who is running the car at One Motorsports, it would be a big deal for him. I've run with him in the past as well. So for the team and for the drivers, it's something that we've really been trying to win. It's eluded us, and it certainly would be extremely satisfying if we were able to pull off the win.
I think a win would really, for us, be pretty amazing. I mean, it's a very difficult race to win, and for us to do it in our second effort as a team, and our first effort really in ES or ESR in the fastest class would be a tremendous success for us.
With just a couple of hours left in this race, overall victory starts to look like a real possibility for the Rhino Racing team, who have been leading and turning laps faster than anyone on the track all race long. But just as they learned last year, the stakes at this race can change drastically in the blink of an eye.
Know what happened. It looks like we lost a rear hub, exploded, took off the back of all the engine cowling, destroyed a lot of parts on the car. We didn't think we'd get it fixed. You could see our guys jumped right in. They had that thing put back together. They set him back out. We're going to see how he's going to do and go from there. That's exactly what happens at this race. This race is survival. So we'll see what happens.
The window of opportunity that Flying Lizard has been looking for the entire race has now been cracked wide open as they start to capitalize on Rhino's misfortune. What was once a long shot is becoming more and more possible as the overall leading competitor works feverishly in the pits to repair their car as fast as possible and attempt to salvage their win.
We didn't get a report of what happened to the lead car. Always unfortunate when something like happens, but that's racing for 25 hours. Currently in first. Don't know what their situation is or how long they'll take to fix it, but we'll enjoy the lead for now and just keep running as best as we can. There's 2.5 hours left and a lot can still happen.
As if things couldn't get any worse for the Rhino team, shortly thereafter, Rhino's second car, their insurance policy, suffers the same right rear problem. A devastating blow for the team with the end of the race nearly in sight. It took just 40 minutes for the Rhino team to get the number 57 car repaired and back on the track, racing it at full tilt to recapture its lead. Depending on your perspective, a mere 40 minutes here can seem like an instant or an eternity.
A bit disappointing here in the last closing stages of the race for us, having sort of commanded the race with the one car, having that parts issue, and then having ultimately the same thing happen on the second car was a bit of a bummer.
Suddenly, the Rhino team catches a break as Flying Lizard is faced with a 15-minute stop-and-go penalty for contact with a Mazda Miata. It is now or never for the Rhino team to regain the lead they held here for so much of this race.
We had a little incident with some contact with a slower-moving Miata. So they had protested, saying that we were trying to make a move that we shouldn't have, and we appealed it, but the race directors felt that it was a solid call, so we have a 15-minute penalty that we'll serve here in pit lane. 15 minutes cuts it close. It definitely digs into the lead that we had there for a bit, but we still feel pretty confident that we have enough time ahead of the second place car, but that's racing.
in what has been one of the most exciting finishes in Thunderhill history. Flying Lizard's number 45 Audi R8, despite its late penalty, holds on to their lead and crosses the finish first for the second consecutive year, completing 751 laps and demolishing the record for most laps completed. And finally, their dogged pursuit of first place and persistence here is rewarded, and the team breathes a sigh of relief as they break out in celebration.
A lot of preparation and a good mix of lady luck showing her face in there. Unfortunately, the Rhino racing team had a little issue towards the end of the race that gave us an opportunity to take the overall lead. And we had a little contact incident that resulted in a 15-minute penalty for us, which gave them an opportunity to regain that lead, possibly. So definitely a very close end to the race, but in the end we held on for the overall victory, I think by 5 or 6 laps. And came away with the overall for the Audi and a third place finish for our Porsche. So very happy with the overall result.
One Motorsports CrowdStrike takes third place in the ESR class, having finished 688 laps.
Great feeling. We were down to 44th place and we finished 8th. So it's a great feeling just to survive the 25, and great team members to help pull it back, and a great crew which really worked hard through the night to get the engine back in and get us back into position.
Finishing 5th place overall and 3rd in the ES class, the CLP Lamborghini completed 713 laps.
Yeah, it's an awesome event because, you know, there's a lot of endurance races around, right? But there's something about this one that's still kind of raw. I mean, professional teams would consider this more of like a club level event where you have people you know, just hiking up their bootstraps and just duct taping their car together and hoping that it makes another couple laps. And then you have professional Daytona prototype teams. But there's something really raw about this race where people just still are spilling their passion into it. It's not just their job, you know? And to get a car to survive a brutal track like this with the conditions that are usually out here for 25 hours straight is a lot harder than you think. So these guys have done an amazing job.
This race was a roller coaster for the Rhino team. They arrived here just hoping to finish and get redemption for last year's early exit. But 22 hours in, they had a solid hold on the overall lead, and it looked like they might have been a true Cinderella story.
Almost. I mean, it was great. I couldn't ask for anything more. Obviously, a little disappointing to have such a great run the whole, you know, all through the night. And 22 hours in, we get the failure, and that kind of took us out of the overall win, but couldn't be happier. You know, got to share this with my son Colton. I'll have that forever. That's my trophy. And you know, the guys did a great job. The team, Rhino Racing, everybody. And I enjoyed driving with the young guys and, you know, the experienced guys. It was a good mix of people. Randy really put together a great group.
The team, made of all fathers and sons, walks away this year having finished 1st and 2nd in the ESR class, and an incredibly close 2nd place overall.
Racers are really resilient, you know, and these guys showed that today. You know, everything that got thrown at them, every time something came up wrong on the car, something broke on the car, they just jumped in and fixed it. There was never a sense of, well, let's just give up, or let's just park it, or we're too far down. I mean, I think we were back in damn near last place with the 5 car after the failure, and then they came all the way back, and, you know, we're on the podium, and then they had another failure. It still finished 4th overall and 2nd in class. I mean, that's a testament. That's you know, what you teach your kids, right? Never give up, and this is why.
And no sooner than the cars are rolled back into the paddocks. While most cars are in a state of disrepair and the teams are mentally and physically exhausted, the collective focus here begins to shift to next year. Who will return?
I had such a good time. I don't want to decide that right now, but I enjoyed this a lot. This would be something I would like to do again.
We'll be back next year, this time for the win.
I mean, I think it's kind of check mark on the calendar for more than just next year. It's one of those races I think we'll be doing forever.
We always keep our options open. When you're batting 1,000, it's kind of hard to go back up to the plate sometimes, but we love winning. Here at Toyo, we've said from the beginning we're in it to win it at this race, so there's a good chance you might see us back next year.
What cars will they bring? And what elusive accomplishments will be chased? One lap at a time, 12 short months from now.